There was a really big study done recently by Tommy's, which is a baby loss charity. And there'd been previous studies to this as well, but they really brought this to the fore, where they showed that women that were having pregnancy loss and if they excluded the ones that they knew it was because of DNA reasons, so it was the unexpected or unknown pregnancy loss, they found that they had much less lactobacilli in their vagina. So there's a real correlation between kind of bacterial imbalance in the vagina and more likely pregnancy loss in early stages. So they found this a really amazing thing that, basically we can really make a difference on kind of healthy pregnancies and full-term pregnancies by really looking after the vaginal microbiome.
And it's so powerful because a lot of people have been on a really long, difficult struggle with their fertility, and this is an area that a lot of people haven't looked at because it's so new. We're only learning about it now, and I feel like this could be that missing piece of the jigsaw for a lot of people that they haven't quite looked at, or they haven't really put two and two together in terms of their recurrent, BV, for example, and how that might be sort of playing a role here.
So the other microbiomes in fertility can be really important as well. So the gut microbiome, like we spoke about earlier, where that low-grade chronic inflammation that can impact lots of places in the body, can impact the reproductive system in cases of things like endometriosis. The oral microbiome and if there's any kind of bacteria moving through the system as well, like we spoke about earlier, may impact things like the placental microbiome in unknown ways at the moment. So there's lots to think about with all the microbiomes when we're looking at unexplained infertility and how we can kind of support that journey forward.
It's completely fascinating. And what we're seeing is that these ecosystems are communicating. That's amazing. Again, I know sometimes there is a tendency to look at everything in isolation, yes, but this isn't how it works, right? Even in the microbiomes, the oral microbiome is so closely tied to the gut microbiome. It's so closely tied to the vaginal microbiome. And I know we were speaking recently about the seminal microbiome, which of course we're really just at the beginning of understanding at the moment. But seminal fluid or semen, we are learning, has its own microbiome as well, and that this can in fact support conception.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's fascinating. And like you say, we're really at the beginning of this journey of thinking, how does the microbes in the semen interplay with, the sperm getting to the egg and so on and so forth. Incredible. So watch this space.
Yeah, watch this space. This will be the next podcast.
Yeah.
So in terms of supporting the vaginal microbiome, let's say you've got somebody that's got recurrent bacterial vaginosis, there's something there that needs support. What are the sort of typical things that you would be looking to do?
So the first thing, like the gut, we're going to go back to looking at, the diet and the impact that that's having. So we're going to remove anything that could be damaging the vaginal microbiome. Smoking's a big one, chemicals, anything that's knocking down the immune system. We're going to pull those out of the diet, and we're going to feed you a polyphenol-rich diet with lots of fiber in it. But what's really important for the vaginal microbiome is making sure we've got access to lots of lactobacilli. And that could be either through taking probiotic supplements that are specifically have strains in that do reach the vagina. Don't ask me how they do it, but they do. We can test and we see that they show up in the vagina, even if it's just for a few transient weeks while your own lactobacilli improve. And we can really look at kind of things that... things like your tampon usage or moon cups or anything that's being used, that making sure that you're changing them often, that they're getting sterilized, all of these sort of things as well. But we find that exposure to the lactobacilli is super important at kind of really improving the vaginal microbiome in many cases.
And do you ever use capsules of this intravaginally, for example?
Yes, we do. Yeah. And so you can use, again, as long as you're choosing strains that are specific to the vaginal area, such as Lactobacillus crispatus or sometimes Lactobacillus gasseri and so on and so forth. They can be used intravaginally as long as there's no other excipients in there as well. And, this is because for years people used to apply yogurt when they had thrush and things like that. And the way was to try and get the lactobacilli. But nowadays we have capsules and it can be a lot easier and less messy.